Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz and Emerson Burris, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up today on the pod, coming off a wild one in Brooklyn, Sporting JAX heads to D.C. What to expect in the first midweek game for the club. They're internationally known. 3 Sporting JAX players representing their countries this fall. We'll tell you who. And clinics. Get your free clinics here. More on the Sporting JAX Foundation bringing the game to the kids. And we'll have a special guest joining the pod in just a moment. We are fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated with the original location in San Marco. Make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for great barbecue and great times. There we go. All right. We will welcome in right off the top here our special guest. If you have read the title of the podcast as posted, it will be no surprise to you. It is one of the great U.S. goalkeepers and a guy who continues to make a major impact in the game after his career. Tim Howard was a professional from 1997 to 2020, played at Man U, at Everton, 6 appearances for Memphis 901, where he was sporting director and part owner, now part owner of the Houston Dynamo. Tony will remember Tim's goal against Bolton Wanderers for Everton, 121 caps for the U.S., and everybody remembers the 15 saves against Belgium in the 2016 World Cup. You now see him on NBC's Premier League coverage and on your second favorite soccer podcast, Unfiltered Soccer with Landon Donovan. We welcome to the Sporting Pod, Tim Howard.
Thank you. Well, that's an incredible introduction. So it's fun to do these things and be with you all. So excited. I love your podcast and definitely an honor to be on.
It is all our honor for sure. And thanks to Emerson for making it happen. Emerson,
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. Let's talk first about the biggest story for American soccer fans and will be for the next 8, 9, 10 months, and that is the progress of the men's national team in preparation for the World Cup. Give me your 30,000-foot view on what you've seen and what you think is happening, and is it happening in the right way?
Yeah, gosh, lots to unwrap there. I think it's been a bit of a slow burn under Mauricio Pochettino, just because of, as we know, player absences, whether they were in or out of camp for injuries and other reasons, trying to get his best team together. Look, I think how you led that is what excites everybody. The World Cup, no matter what, we're going to be lulled into this false sense of excitement because it's the World Cup and we want this team to do brilliantly. I'm excited about the next round of games here in October, because it feels as if this is going to be the strongest roster. Maybe 1 or 2 injuries, but essentially this is the strongest roster he could possibly put together. And that's when I get excited about this team. It's the what if everyone's fit, if we have our best players together. We haven't seen that a lot with this group, and so therefore when it comes to the really big moments, we're unsure what they can do. But at its best, certainly on paper, and we've seen it in small little glimpses, this team is very good.
They can be, and I think the biggest question is, who's it going to be, right? We're still waiting we have some idea of some of that, but one of the things that Mauricio Pochettino has brought has been some of it forced upon him and some of it by design. He's used a lot of different player combinations, even some formation changes and so forth. Do you feel like you have a handle on what it's going to look like?
Every time
can you play?
I cannot play anymore. Every time I think I have a handle on it, something changes. And you're right. It's been a really interesting sort of dynamic with Pochettino, because he's come in to get this team ready for the World Cup, and he's had to basically assess the entire player pool. Usually you get 4 years to do that, and then 2 years into it, you go, right, you guys are done. This is the group I'm going with. He's had to expedite that in a very short amount of time. So that's kind of why we're seeing, so as you mentioned, so many lineup changes and formations and different player combinations, because he's trying to figure out who's who. And so really, I think the experimentation phase is probably over. You might see a few different tweaks with what is essentially the best team and the best squad. But ultimately, I think the names and the faces between October, which we're in now, and the World Cup are pretty much going to stay the same.
Yeah, and I think that's
that's right on, and I think that may be, we don't have many advantages right now, but one of them may be that we're hard to prepare for. I know is Diego Luna going to make it? Are we? Without knowing the lineup, and I think we have some real question marks personally at keep. Between the sticks, and it's a tough job. And you think about what Pochettino has to do. We're a rich country, so many athletes, so many great players, but you look at the top 200 players in the world, there's not that many on our side, so he's got to really stitch together a quilt of quality pretty quick.
Yeah, again, you talk about when you look at some of the other top nations, these are household names, and they pretty much name themselves on the team sheet. We don't necessarily have that. We have guys who are playing in Europe trying to find minutes at times. We're an interesting group because half of our team will probably come from the MLS, and that's a different balance that not other countries have to strike. So yeah, to me, I think he's going to get it right. I really like Mauricio Pochettino, and I like a lot of the players that are in the, let's say, squad. Let's not even call it a pool anymore. I like them. I think they're talented. I do think they're hungry, and I think they have a lot to prove. And part of this group, because it's not the whole group, showed that this summer at the Gold Cup. They showed that they can compete and they can dig in. And again, it's not, most of those players won't necessarily be on the World Cup roster, but quite a few will.
Yeah, I think it's very American to be a little bit of an underdog too. I think
Of
that's
course,
better for
of
our
course.
fans. Better to be sort of underappreciated at this than be a giant slayer or something that
Mhm.
where expectations are ridiculous.
I think expectations are probably going to be ridiculous anyway when you host. That happens. But
Fair.
point well taken, Tony. Tim, let's talk about how the World Cup is going to impact the game in this country. The last time the World Cup was hosted here, there was major change in terms of the
Yeah,
focus, the resources, the
yeah.
league, all those things. How is this World Cup, do you think, going to impact soccer in America?
Well, in a huge way, and you're right. I mean, in '94, that was kind of the springboard to the MLS and kind of the growth of soccer. I call it 1.0. This is going to be the biggest World Cup in history, based on numbers and butts and seats and dollars and viewership. And so this country clearly is so much further advanced than '94 with our infrastructure in terms of stadiums and teams and USL and MLS and NWSL and all of the people in the ecosystem. I do think we're going to make another huge leap. It looks as if certain leagues will change their calendar to go to the international calendar, which is a big deal. And coming off the back of a World Cup, I do think that the money that's going to be invested in the game and already is being invested in this game over the last couple of years in preparation for the World Cup. I think soccer is going to go to another level. It has to, based on numbers alone.
Yeah, and you talk about, and you're aware of this, obviously, from the inside, the way that ownership has evolved over time
Mhm.
within the U.S. soccer ecosystem, not just MLS, but also within the USL ecosystem, and now the
Mhm.
plan for Pro Rel and a first division. Um, do you feel like the World Cup will impact those plans at all? And will Pro Rel and a USL first division drastically change the landscape of the sport here?
I think it will. Look, I have been outspoken um, about I'm not for promotion relegation in America. As a whole, I am, and certainly I lived that in England for 13 years. But I question whether we're ready to execute it in America. But every time I say that, I'm also very open in the fact that I've had loads of conversations with people on the other side who are really for it, and they've in those conversations have been able to sort of sway me a little bit to the middle and say like this could be a possibility. Now that being said, I think USL structure is set up in a way that it could have a really good go at promotion relegation. I really do. So if it's going to work anywhere, it's going to work in the USL system. So I'm excited to see how it gets implemented. Um, and then of course the drama that ensues as we know it year in year out when it comes to promotion relegation.
Hey Tim, I'm in Portugal right now, and and one of my roles is as U.S. soccer scout for our youth national teams, and we are seeing this really wave of youth American players coming over to Europe. How do you see that transition for a young player that is leaving an MLS East and out environment and trying to make that jump over? We've seen some in the past, but in my role here, every week I get a new notification of a new American kid playing in Spain or in Portugal. It's starting to happen more. Is it good or bad for youth development in the US?
Yeah, I think it's just such a great question. Look, it's hard for a young kid to leave home and go so far, right? If you're a kid in New York and you went to LA to play, it would be far from home. When you're going to Europe and um, you know, as a youngster, it's difficult to prepare such a huge life change. Now, that being said, we've seen some kids be able to do that and adapt really well. I don't necessarily think, if I'm being honest with you, Mauricio, I don't think it hurts our youth development as such. We're such a large country in terms of numbers of kids who play the game, and the number of kids who are getting exported and going to play abroad is so small. I think it's helpful. I do. I think it's helpful for those individuals, and then collectively, it's not really going to hurt the bottom line, I don't think.
Great question. Tim, we have a foundation. I stand that up. I'm the chief community officer for Sporting JAX. We've done a lot of clinics. We serve about 500 kids right now. We just got a mini pitch. I know that you have one with your foundation, and we're really excited. So a little bit lower sort of level than Mauricio's question is, how can we do better to bring all the benefits of organized soccer and team sports to kids that don't have access to it right now? Like I think this is a huge problem because if you're playing team sports, you get better grades, you have better relationships, you've got more chances of success. What are your thoughts on being able to get the game beyond just the suburbs and people who can afford it in the United States?
Yeah, well, obviously, thank you for what you do. I think it's so important. Look, what in this country, as we know, it's a pay to play model in terms of the youth system, and that kind of eliminates a bunch of different kids based on socioeconomics. And so I don't think the pay to play model is going away. I grew up in that system. My daughter grew up in that system. I don't think it's going away for better or for worse. But what I do think is we can create programming like you're talking about, as you're doing there with Jax, and I've done with my foundation and the U.S. Soccer Foundation. Just recently, um, Street Soccer USA partnered with Visa and Bank of America and opened a pitch here in New York City. So it's important that we don't forget about the have-nots and the communities that are underserved. Because as much as I don't think the pay-to-play model is going away, we can still collectively as a soccer community subsidize opportunities. And I do think we have to put more pitches, more accessibility in urban areas, particularly in this country, because as you mentioned, if there's opportunity, the kids are going to play. And that's really what we preach is like, where I grew up, it didn't, if there was a basketball court or a tennis court or something, you just got on the pitch and in the field or the court and played. And it wasn't sport specific. You just wanted to play. And so if we can create those opportunities in those communities, I think it's vitally important. And again, I think that's also what so many of these dollars might bring to America with the World Cup in terms of legacy projects in these individual cities and leaving. Okay, the games are gone, but what did we leave? And maybe we resurrected a park, or maybe we got some clean space or green space and made football pitches. So I think it's vitally important.
I love that. And I would just like to say, too, that I think the ripple effect, the later 10 years down the road, if we can create those opportunities for these kids, I think our national team benefits, right? So the more touches you get, the better you get. And not every kid's just getting a chance right now.
You know, you said two words there that really stuck out to me, Tim, and that is opportunity and access.
Yeah.
And it made me think of what's happening with the women's game now as well. Obviously, we have a Gainbridge Super League team here in Jacksonville. The number of professional jobs that are available in this country has grown and will continue to grow moving forward. From the women's game perspective, what does the future need to look like in this country? Do we need to have 2 or 3 or 4 levels in the pyramid on the women's side as well?
Well, I think that certainly is a possibility, and that's kind of where, when I look at the women's game and why I get so excited about USL, NWSL, kind of in the same playing field, is it just creates more opportunities. It creates more opportunities, and I think as you start to build the pyramid, as that grows, it gives more of these women, whether they're coming straight out of high school or they're coming from a college program, it gives them opportunity and access to be a pro and and make a really good run at it. And I think that I have a daughter who's in college who dreams about maybe playing professional one day, and so I do. It's close to home, and the more opportunities we've seen it on the men's side, and we've seen it work in a big way. I was obviously part of the USL pyramid with the Memphis 901 FC, and being able to sell players onto the MLS, bring players through from some of the lower USL leagues, you realize kind of firsthand how important those opportunities are. When you get to meet the players who maybe were playing in League Two or League One, they make the jump up to the championship. It's like, okay, they've gone through that system, and without that system, they wouldn't still be playing football. So I think it's important for the women.
One of the things that we've talked about, and Mauricio is kind of bringing it up here in the notes, talking about the gap between the leagues now. Mal, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And not so much the gap, just the lack of alignment in between the leagues at times, right? Once again, you look at South America or Europe, and there's an alignment within the federation. And U.S. soccer has not just from youth soccer, but then in the professional environment, competing leagues. That's an issue. I think they know that. So talking about the gap, but also the differences between the two. What $1 million question? How do we fix it, right? Or what are some of the steps towards that?
How do we fix it? Yeah, I agree with that. I think everybody, if you have your eyes open, can see that. Yeah, I think about coming from England and the pyramid that exists in England in terms of the Premier League and the Championship, League One, League Two, and then obviously the football conferences, which are non-league. It's hard. I don't have the answer to the question. It's hard because there are so many competing factors within the U.S. soccer landscape. It would be ideal at some point, and I don't think it's impossible, that everyone gets on the same page and plays ball, but it's quite difficult at the moment. It really is. I think if I'm being brutally honest, promotion relegation is going to be a big factor in that. I think if there's some measure of success with the USL having promotion relegation, I think you start to have conversations, right? I oftentimes speak about live golf and the PGA, and they would never ever work together. Well, now that things are kind of flourishing and there's a lot of money involved, I think there'll be some sort of merger and there'll be some working together. So we'll see. Time will tell. But I think it's right. I agree with you. It's a difficult task. Nobody's on the same page. Nobody wants to play ball. Do I see in America years from now where it's a one-tiered system? Yeah, I do. But I'm not sure that that's tomorrow.
And the FA's just got 150-year head start on us, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like it is perfect, kind of, the way that it's set up. So maybe we can get there.
Yeah, the last topic I want to bring up, Tim, is sort of a hypothetical here, but you're kind of in a rare position, having played, been in ownership, sporting director, broadcaster, covering, ambassador, all these things. How would you want American soccer covered if you were a young fan today? Let's say you were 10, 12 years old, coming up and starting to really take an interest. How would you want the sport covered?
Well, as much access as humanly possible. I just think about when I was growing up, there was snippets. You had to dig deep to try and find some semblance of soccer, and it wasn't American soccer. It was somewhere, and I was watching Italian football back then. And so, as the young kid, and we see the numbers as a youngster these days, they want things quick and they want it fast. And I think where we've evolved to in this country is American fans, even the young ones, they want it given to them in a traditional way. They don't want bells and whistles. They don't need it dressed up. They understand the game. They're not stupid. They're incredibly educated on what good soccer, what good football is, and that's how they want it delivered to them. And I think for a long time in this country, we felt we had to kind of dress it up and make it fancy and desirable, right? We're all, everybody on this podcast right now understands how lucrative, how exciting soccer is, and that's because of the growth of the game. And so I think that from a deliverable standpoint, some of the youngsters want it quicker, whether that be on their phone or through TikTok or whatever the case, whatever the case is. That's how they're consuming it. But ultimately, regardless of that, they want it delivered to them in a way that doesn't sort of dumb it down or water it down.
Mhm.
They, because they understand the consumer is not stupid. They're high level football thinking people, whether they're teenagers or adults. And so that's kind of how we see it and try and deliver it.
And the expansion, especially just over the last few years of access, has been so phenomenal. Like, I honestly sometimes think, oh my gosh, I can watch this match. The reason I'm an Evertonian is because I used to rent VHS tapes from a little soccer store in our town, and it was Greatest Goals of '84, and it was
that in black and white?
No, it was color, but it was Graham Sharp's volleys, and I would just love it. And so I was blue from then on. But then, really getting access to Everton was difficult until, really the Moyes era when you were there. And so obviously, my son is Evertonian. We're all blue, but he has grown up literally being able to watch every match, which is a game changer. Like, it's amazing. Yes. And so that's continuing at a rapid pace, and I think prosperity is sneaking in the U.S. now, where it's soccer as a business has been a little bit of a struggle. So now we're cooking.
For sure. Well, Tim, thank you so much for taking some time out today. Thank you to Emerson for setting us up. I kept asking her, do you want to
I guess I do have one question. I don't have anything dire, but I guess if there was a 10-year-old listening to this, whether he or she wanted to be a player, aspiring broadcaster, whatever it may be, what would your advice be to the next generation?
Yeah, look, I think that's such an incredible question because it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of on our podcast we got that question from a parent, and it was like you have to ask as the youngster, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put the work in? Because in order to get to the highest level of broadcasting, the highest level of soccer, there's gonna be some tough days, gonna be some hard days, and for all the glory that you see, that's just barely the tip of the iceberg. And the hard work aspect of it is just kind of reminding the young kids that, like, there's probably a lot more days of failure and difficulty than there is success. And if you're willing to kind of go through that, then sky's the limit. So I think it's the hard work. It's a great question, but I think it's the hard work side of it, being willing to do extra and sacrifice. The sacrifice is huge for young athletes.
That is the case for sports, for broadcasting, and I think for life, too. So, Tim, thank you so much. We keep up the great work. We'll continue following you both on the podcast and on NBC, and we look forward to checking in with you down the road.
You guys are amazing, so thank you for having me on.
Thanks,
I can't
Tim.
wait to listen to the full episode.
Yeah,
The great Tim Howard.
Up the toffees.
Yeah, there
Let's
you
go.
Well, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Look at
man.
Sam.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, well, I mean,
Club legend.
if you club legend, country legend.
Emerson gets a club legend for setting that up.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to
What
tell
can I
everybody the how this happened?
Sure. Yeah. So actually, it was media day for the Super League team.
High school media day?
No, it
sorry.
was for our
That's
team.
coming up.
And I was sitting down during lunch, scrolling on my phone, and I got on LinkedIn, and I had a message. And it was from Tim, and he just said that we have lots in common. He loves what I've been doing with the networks and the USL, and looked at my experience on my profile and said would love to connect. And so one thing led to another. We had a phone call and just got to know each other. I picked his brain about getting an agent and just the broadcast world and all of that. And then he actually invited me up to Atlanta, where he was covering the Premier League Summer Series, and got to meet him there and network with him. And then it's just kind of evolved. And then I was in Kansas City, and he was there for the Fan Fest. And so then he said, "Hey, when do I get to come on the podcast?" And I said, "You want to come on our podcast?"
Yes.
He said, "Of course I do. If I get the invite."
A lot of people do, Emerson.
Yeah. So
I'll be
we have
fair.
a long line
we did
waiting.
jump him in front of some folks. So,
super awesome. He got to come on. Great guy. Great connection.
Listen, a little behind the scenes story. There was a time, I think maybe about 10 years ago, or no, it would have been a little less than that, after the World Cup, where he was doing a speaking tour around, and we were trying to get him to come to Jacksonville, and it didn't materialize for one reason or another. But listening to him as a player, and then especially when he's talking about listen, a lot of athletes can talk about what they've experienced on the pitch just moments ago and that sort of thing. I really like his life perspective above and beyond just the soccer thing. And he was unbelievable. He created some amazing memories for U.S. soccer fans in that World Cup. And, of course, Tony, for you, with your heart with Everton, you watched him play a lot through the years.
Yep.
Great to have him on.
I think that's great too, and we need to. The event that we did with Scurry, with Brianna Scurry, we just do that with him. We have him back.
There we
Totally.
go.
Yes, yeah.
I'll
Cool.
ask.
Perfect. All right.
Let's make it happen.
Tim, put it on your calendar.
Yes.
All right. We want to remind you that if you want more on Sporting JAX, you can always tune into the Sporting JAX Report. It comes to you this week, noon on Sunday on ABC 25. You can join us every Tuesday night at 6 for the Coaches Show on 1010XL. You can listen live and on demand at 1010XL.com. Mark Warburton, head coach Stacey Balaam, and a player join me there. And then on Thursday nights at 6 on AM 930, Fox Sports Radio Jacksonville, Mauricio, Becky Burley, Emerson, and I bring you the Sporting JAX Soccer Hour. Okay, a couple things we want to get to. First, Sporting JAX will play a midweek game for the first time in club history coming up on Tuesday at DC Power. A little revenge game after DC spoiled the opener. Tony, we have seen this team play some highly entertaining matches. Of course, the one thing you love to see the goals being scored.
Yeah.
You want to see
A little too entertaining.
Yeah,
maybe a little
seriously.
too. Yeah. But this will be a good one on Tuesday. You can watch on Peacock.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really up to us to play full 90 minutes. I think that's our thing right now. Really excited to go up to DC and see what we're made of. It'll be a good rubber match, hopefully.
And then the team will be back home on the following Saturday to take on Tampa Bay Sun, the defending champs, who were the victims of the first Sporting JAX victory, first road win as well. And that'd be a great time to get your Sporting Flex Pack going. Choose any 4 matches, and you save on the single game ticket price, starting at just $60 for 4. That is available by going to sportingjax.com/flex or calling 904-863-KICK. Okay.
I got to say something about that Tampa game really fast.
Okay.
So I sat down with Georgia Brown yesterday, defender, 6'2". She made it known. And I asked her what her personal goals for the season were. And she said, I want to continue to grow and gain experience and da-da-da-da-da. And she said, but I really want a goal. And I said, okay, when's it going to happen? She said, well, I don't know. It's coming. And I said, okay, how about Tampa at home? She said, yeah, that win at home felt nice against KC Current 2, but it didn't feel real. They really want a win against a league team, and she said it would be like revenge playing against Tampa. She has the time to USF. I said, okay, we're going to manifest this.
Her college coach.
Yes,
there.
exactly. She thinks she's going to get a header in that game.
Okay.
So we're manifesting it now that Georgia
Yes.
Brown gets that header.
All right. Well, Paige Kenton got one against Brooklyn on a corner, so an opportunity there. Speaking of Georgia Brown, Mauricio, Georgia called in for the Scotland senior team. We mentioned it. Sydney Schmidt is going to play for the U.S. U17 World Cup team. This is an amazing coincidence. That U17 World Cup is played in Morocco. One of the matches that Scotland will play, one of the friendlies Scotland will play, is against and in Morocco, the same day that the U.S. U-17s will be playing in the U.S. in the U-17
Man,
World
if you're a
Cup.
Sporting JAX fan, you have to go.
You might as well just book your flight.
Hey,
That's not very far from Portugal.
I think we should take the podcast to
Yes,
Morocco.
we need to talk to JJ.
And Matt, we've talked about Ashlyn Puerta having been called into the U.S. U-20s. Great opportunity internationally for these three players to have additional soccer experiences and to represent their countries.
Yeah, it really is incredible. And you're right. Morocco is not that far from Portugal. So if you guys need coverage of Sporting JAX players playing for the national team, it's a quick hop across.
You know we do, yes.
All we need to do is send a plane ticket and a lozenge, and he'll be ready to go.
Is Ryanair flying into Morocco? Because that's what we can afford right now.
And hopefully
but,
I'll be gone. I'll be done with going through puberty at that point.
Yeah. Congrats on that.
Be ready to go. But
All right,
but you're right, Cole. The experience of a national team call up, oftentimes we think about them going because they're going to get an individual experience, but I also think about them coming back. Hopefully they're healthy coming back, but what they bring back to the environment when they have just been representing their country at an international level, perspective, different experiences, different teammates, competition. So even though we might miss a couple players for 1 or 2 games, hopefully not many, and they come back healthy, when they come back with a different spirit to them, more competitive. They tasted what the top level looks like, and they want to get back there. So their performance continues to go up from that point on.
As does your voice. Well done there.
I love that. I love that. And I just want to add real quick that the job that Mark Warburton did to find this talent and that Stacy has done in developing and all that, it's just really phenomenal that we have that kind of representation from our little club here in Jacksonville.
Let's think about this too. All three have a real local tie.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Sydney Schmidt grew up here, played at St. John's Country Day. Dad's an assistant coach at the school. So she is a Jacksonville product. Georgia Brown came here, played for the W League team in Florida Elite. Paige Kenton told me a story on the radio show this week about when they go and coach the little kids. All the kids are more excited to see Georgia because they knew her because she was around with the W League. So they like, that's our gal. And then Ashlyn Puerta, not only went to Florida State, but her family moved to St. Augustine after being in California. So we've got these players with local ties who care about the club and the city, who are taking this amazing opportunity elsewhere around the globe to represent the United States and also representing our area when they do so. So it's really a cool thing. Tony, I know you, before we wrap it here, some clinics upcoming.
Yes.
Give me the latest on the foundation. You mentioned some of those clinics with Tim Howard, but what do we have coming up?
Yeah, so starting November 4th, we have Tuesday night clinics at KIPP. It's actually early evening, so I think 4:45. All the information's at sportingjax.com/foundation. If you've already registered, you don't need to do it again. You just need to show up. But if you have not registered, you can do that there. We want families. It's free. We want families from all over JAX, but we're really concentrating on our geo-specific location, which is the north side at KIPP Bold City High School, and we couldn't be any more stoked about our partnership with them. I also really kind of sort of feel bad when Tim was talking about mini pitches and Bank America and all the sponsors. I have to say, Gamebridge is an amazing league sponsor, and they're the driving force and the funds behind the mini pitch in Arlington. And so, hat tip Gamebridge. I think they are doing things.
No doubt about it. All right. We do not have a Premier League contest this week because it is the international.
Gosh, I can finally sleep at night.
We should probably go over the leaderboard, though.
Should we? Okay, let's do that. Let me bring that up here, and we can go over exactly how it all stands. And listen, sometimes it's like you want to brag that you outdid your compatriots. We can all pat each other on the back this past week.
Yeah, winners.
Mauricio picked Spurs over Leeds. That's a win. Tony had Bournemouth over Fulham. That's a win. Emerson had City over Brentford. That's a win. I had Villa over Burnley. That's a win.
Good job,
Win,
team.
win.
Yeah.
Win. All we do is win, no matter what.
We should have done that segment before Tim, and then he could be like calling us when he's on his broadcast.
Ooh.
That's probably
Like,
what
yeah.
I'm sure he'll listen.
We'll have
to
those
pod.
things where like we'll do the
graphics that
crest,
pop up.
yeah,
Yeah.
the crest and all that.
So here's the standings as of today. Emerson, Mauricio, and I have 11 points. Tony has 12.
Look at you.
Atop the table. Tony is the only one of us who has not picked a game that has ended in a draw. He's only got wins and losses.
Yeah,
So
that's how I roll.
just the way it is. All right. Anybody else want to have anything else to chime in with?
I don't think so.
Okay, you're good?
No, I'm good. We got a couple big things coming up. High School Musical. Oh my gosh.
High School
Let's
Musical.
go. Yes, that's on the brain for some reason. High School Media Day is coming up. I'm sure we'll talk about it in the next pod. But then also we've got our annual collab with the JAGs coming up. That's you heard it here first thing. That is going to be amazing. We've added a lot of sizzle to that program.
Yes. We'll let you know about that in the coming days. All right. For Mauricio Ruiz and Tony Allegretti and Emerson Burris and Tim Howard, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for listening to
The
Sporting
Sporting Pod.